Hello there and welcome back to another video. Today we are going to talk about Turbulent Timeways, which is a brand new event which has just started on the live game, which is a time walking event to cap off the end of Dragonflight Season 2. This event did run at the end of Season 1 of Dragonflight, but it has had some updates, including some interesting leveling buffs, some new gear, and a brand new mount which you can obtain from doing this event. So don't sleep on it, it's definitely worth it for the mount. But before we jump into everything you need to know about Turbulent Timeways, just want to shout out my Twitch, twitch.tv/MrGM. If you want to see me stream World of Warcraft, Dragonflight, Dragonflight PTR, and more, I'm over on twitch.tv/MrGM every single day. Right, so yes, Turbulent Timeways has arrived on the live game and will be active for the next 5 weeks. Now, as mentioned, there are going to be some changes to this event from the previous one, including a new mount, which we'll talk about in a second. So what you need to know about Turbulent Timeways is that it's going to be a very good time to level characters. Essentially, what this event is 5 weeks of time walking. So the first week will be a week of Cataclysm time walking. That obviously includes all of the Cataclysm dungeons and, of course, the Firelands raid, so I highly recommend checking that out. The second week will be Burning Crusade time walking with all of the Burning Crusade dungeons and the Black Temple time walking raid. The week after that will be Legion time walking, which will feature all of the Legion dungeons. No raid that week, unfortunately. The week after that will be Mists of Pandaria time walking with the Mists of Pandaria dungeons, and no raid there, unfortunately, but you know, Throne of Thunder would have been kind of cool to throw in. And then the final week of time walking, the fifth week, which will start on October 24th or October 25th, depending on your region, is Wrath of the Lich King, and that will of course feature all of the Wrath of the Lich King dungeons and of course the time walking Old War raid. Now during these weeks, it's obviously going to be a standard time walking week, so you'll have the weekly quest to do 5 dungeons or kill 5 raid bosses. Normally this would reward you with a normal mode piece of gear, but this time it is actually rewarding a heroic piece of gear from Aberrus the Shadow Crucible, which is of course upgradable. So make sure you do at least 5 dungeons or 5 raid bosses depending on the week, every single week of Turbulent Timeways. So that's kind of the standard stuff. That's what we expected. It's what we got from the last version of Turbulent Timeways. However, as mentioned, there is some updates this time. So there is now a new buff called Knowledge of the Timeways. Every time you complete a time walking dungeon, you will get this buff, and this is a 2-hour long buff which will give you a 5% increase to your experience from killing monsters and completing quests. Every time you do another time walking dungeon, this buff will stack. So at 2 stacks, you'll get 10%, at 3 stacks, you'll get 15%, and then at finally 4 stacks, you will get the buff Master of the Timeways, which is a 3-hour buff, which gives you 30% increased XP from killing monsters and completing quests. As mentioned, that does last 3 hours, but if you want to refresh the buff, all you have to do is just another time walking dungeon, and that will put the buff straight back up to 3 hours. This buff also does not run out while you are offline. So if you're just leveling a character and you kind of just want to chill out for a little bit, you can leave your character offline and the buff will not decrease while you're offline. However, it will reset every single week because there is a new achievement with a new mount. So this achievement is called Master of the Turbulent Timeways. So all you have to do for this is gain Master of the Timeways for 5 weeks during the Turbulent Timeways event. So this probably will be doable in the next Turbulent Timeways event at the end of Season 3. However, obviously you can do it this time. So the Master of the Turbulent Timeways buff is the buff I just mentioned. It's the one that you get the last 3 hours, and it has the 30% increase of XP. Now this can be done on a max level character. I've been doing it on my level 70 and I've got 1 out of 5. That 1 out of 5 is also across characters, so if you do it 1 week on one character, you could do it on another character the next week, and that will be an account-wide progression, which is really nice, and then you just have to do it 5 times. So essentially it's just 4 time walking dungeons a week for 5 weeks. So every single new week of time walking that comes along with Turbulent Timeways, you just want to do 4 dungeons to get that buff and get the credit towards the achievement. This achievement does reward a mount, as mentioned. This is the Sandy Shale Wing. This is obviously a Shale Wing mount, the ones from the Xeralit Cavern, but kind of a pasty version of that. So if you want to get this mount, it's fairly easy. You just got to be consistent for 5 weeks, doing 4 dungeons a week. However, as mentioned, you probably can do this, you know, another time. If you don't get it all done this time, you could probably finish it off next time there's a Turbulent Timeways event. So yeah, that's kind of pretty much everything that's going on with Turbulent Timeways. Pretty interesting, some nice changes this time around. There was some data mine items that you could trade between your ults and things like that. Unfortunately, that's not a thing, and the buff is not account-wide, so Yeah, that's a bit rubbish. I think it would have been cool if the buff was account-wide, but unfortunately it is not. So if you want to get that extra XP buff, definitely do this on a lower level character. Of course, one major change which did come to time walking in patch 10.17 is that you can now do it at much lower level characters, depending on the time walking event. So the best way to check this is just to check the calendar of the time walking event to see what the minimum level is to queue, and then you can obviously just level through that and get the buff, and then eventually get the mount, or just a load of levels. You know, 30% is really great, especially in 60 to 70 if you want to stack that with your dream surges. You're going to be getting a lot of levels very, very fast. So this is a really cool event, really good for catching up, rolling into Dragonflight Season 3, and of course patch 10.2. So yeah, there you go guys, that is everything you need to know about Turbulent Timeways in Season 2 of Dragonflight. Let me know down below what you think of this event, and yeah, I think it's alright. It is funny how it was like the item was data mined and everyone was like, this is how it works, and then it ended up not being like that. Yeah, slightly awkward. Anywho, thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, please do leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you want to support me outside of YouTube, I'm also on Patreon, or you can follow me on Twitter at MrGMYT, and I have a Discord channel as well. And as mentioned, I am streaming on twitch.tv/MrGM. If you want to see me stream World of Warcraft, Dragonflight, Dragonflight PTR, and more, we're on twitch.tv/MrGM every single day. And with that, guys, I'll see you next time.